welcome to the finale episode of the Boopcast, number 12, in case you couldn't count. We are your hosts, SheNoob and...
Cory.
Cory! So, RWBY Volume 4 is over. Just like that. It's all done for another, 8 months we have to wait now? Something like that?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So, they did say that Volume 5 will be premiering this October. It's looking likely October 21st, as that's a Saturday, and Volume 4 premiered on October 22nd, which was a Saturday. So, October 21st, keep your eyes on that date. Yeah. I can't believe it's all done. Just like that.
Yeah.
For another year. Another volume's gone. This one, I think, probably went by the fastest.
Yeah, no kidding.
So we're going to chat about the finale and about a few other things, and also I'm going to talk a bit about RTX Sydney as well, because some pretty interesting things happened while I was there. But first of all, as always... Oh, there go the amino questions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, here they come. We're going to go to viewer questions. I'll start with the... Oh, well, Alfie already asked one on Amino a while ago. Alright, so Alfie on Amino asked, what do you think will happen to Crow by the end of the volume? Now, he asked this before the finale actually premiered, so we know what's happened to Crow now. But I'm going to address this like I haven't seen the finale yet. I was 100% convinced Crow was going to die. So
And I was 100% convinced he was going to live.
Yeah, well, shut up. Cory is always... It shits me when he's right about this stuff, because... like, I just... You know, I was so convinced you were just holding on to false hope. But the whole thing turned out a lot better than we could have ever asked for, so, but we'll get to all of that. Yeah, I was convinced he was gonna die, so I was extremely relieved when he didn't. Pisky Waterbender on YouTube asked a few questions. Firstly, opinions on the new Yang song, Armed and Ready.
Love it.
So
much.
We're gonna get to this at the end of the podcast in detail, but for now, we love it, we think it's great, but we'll talk in depth about the lyrics and the instrumentation and all of that at the end, so stay for that. Also, what's the song you're most looking forward to hearing the full version of? This is really difficult to answer, because we're looking forward to the full versions of everything.
Yeah.
And then once we hear the full versions, we'll know which one we like the most. But for now, I think I'm most looking forward to Bad Luck Charm, actually.
See, that's like I'm looking forward to all of them for different reasons. Because, I you know, what we saw of This Life Is Mine, it was so beautiful that I'd love to hear the rest of it. But then Bad Luck Charm is going to give us interesting insight into Crow. And then there's, I always get this title wrong, like Morning Follows Night.
Yes.
That one is just like, you know, kind of want to hear sort of like how Sun and Blake's dynamic has changed based on the song. And just then the intro song, like, it's so...
Obviously. For obvious reasons. I know, yeah, the answer is everything for different reasons. But for me, mostly, I loved Bad Luck Charm when I heard it in the episode. I was like, yes, a Crow-themed rock song. And finally, favorite episode this volume. I almost want to say the finale. Oh my goodness, I don't know. I should have thought about this more before we started.
I know.
Oh, Alfie has just posted more questions.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which one are you going with?
I think I'll go with episode 9. Just because
9 was pretty good.
It showed all the girls, and like, I don't know, like, here's the thing, it wasn't like the best episode in terms of like content or anything, but it was just like, I don't know, there was just something about the episode where I was like,
I think I think what it was is that it was the first episode to break the pattern this volume, and like break the kind of Kira, why are you eating my chair right now? Sorry, I just felt this weird vibration in my chair, and for some reason she was biting the wheel, but... What are you doing, dog? You're so weird. What was I talking about? Yeah, no, I think it was the first episode to show everybody, and it was like we hadn't had that before in the volume. No, it's so hard to choose a favorite.
It gave them all cliffhangers, too, so it was like, it really, like, it showed all of them, and it gave us all reasons to, like, hope for what we would see next from them.
I really, really liked Chapter 10.
I know, that was another one that was so good.
But I also really liked Chapter 11. Oh, it's so difficult. Chapter 10. I'm going to say Chapter 10, just because emotionally it was such a... It was a very emotional episode, and it has my favourite quote from the entire series in it, which is Jean saying, You didn't drag us along, you gave us the courage to follow you. I think that's my favourite thing anyone in RWBY has ever said. Yeah, so my answer is Chapter 10. Yeah, I think I've decided. So I just got some more Amino questions. Stop Gold has asked, in Volume 4, what was your favourite tracks so far? I think we basically already answered that. Bad Luck Charm was my favourite.
Yeah, I'll go with This Life Is Mine.
Yeah, I really like This Life Is Mine.
Pretty much the same as the other answer.
Yeah. Lewis has asked, what do you guys think of Professor Lionheart? Is he a villain or a coward on no side, and what do you think he'll bring in the following volumes?
Well, I mean, he's the cowardly lion, so he's just... Yes. I think he's a coward, and just, like, you know... And Watts is absolutely going to manipulate him.
I agree. I do have this in my notes, and we will get to it towards the end as well. I also think that Lionheart is actually a woman, but I'll get to that as well. And my reasons for thinking so.
Ironwood referred to him as a he in the Chapter 11. I don't trust him. I don't trust Leo. He's... Yeah.
Okay. In that case, I will talk about that in a different context. Alfie has asked, do you think Oscar in Volume 5 will have a new outfit, maybe similar to Ozpin, and do you think he will fight with Ozpin's cane? I don't think straight away he's going to get a new look, but I think it will happen over the course of Volume 5. I think... Yeah,
he'll get one eventually.
I think he will fight with the cane. I think we'll get to see the cane in action eventually. I don't know if it's going to be Volume 5 or after that. Maybe Volume 5. I feel like Oscar now is going to be under Crow's wing a lot. Crow is going to have to give him a lot of guidance and a lot of tutorage with, you know, everything that's going on in this huge responsibility that Oscar now has and doesn't fully understand. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting dynamic moving through to Volume 5. Yeah, that does it for questions. Our Twitters are still open, so if we get another one throughout the course of this, we will answer it, obviously. If you want to submit questions... Oh, this is the finale podcast. Well, we will be doing occasional podcasts over the off-season to do with RWBY Chibi and news relating to Volume 5 when it is made available. And obviously when the trailer is released later this year is when we will do a podcast leading into Volume 5. So, yeah, there will be... The podcast won't stop over the off-season, but it will not be weekly, obviously. Yeah, so if you do want to submit questions, you can submit them whenever you want, and I will save them for whenever we do the next one. It's at SheNoob087 and at Cory11333 on Twitter. You can also submit them in the comments below, and on our Facebooks, and on my RWBY Amino. Yeah. So, without further ado, the finale. I'm always sad. This is the last time we're doing this for ages. Okay. Why don't you take it away there, Cory?
Okay. Well, I mean, the episode starts with the Nuclevi.
Yes.
And kicking their asses, like, ugh.
So the Nuclevi Grim. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was very looking forward to seeing this Grimm in action.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting how his, like, headpiece... I mean, I guess we did see it in episode 11, but I didn't make the connection. But, like, how the, like, head part of it very much kind of resembled, like, what you would see a Chinese representation of a demon is, or an Oni.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of. Was very... So it was, like, I like how in Mistral they had, like, you know, it's kind of Grim Reaper-esque.
Yeah.
And it had, like, the face of a demon.
Yes. Yeah, I was really looking forward to seeing this Grimm in action, because it's totally unique to any other Grimm we've seen in the show before. And obviously it bears some kind of intelligence as well. So, and we saw that in the way that it fights. It was able to predict the movements of Team Ranger and counteract them, and was an extremely formidable foe. I feel like we got a good balance of seeing exactly what that Grimm was capable of before they inevitably killed it off, so I was happy with that. And making us fear for Ranger's lives as well at the same time. Yeah. Ren's expression at the beginning of this episode. At the end of chapter 11, he was kind of, you know, shell-shocked. And then at the beginning of this episode, something lit a fire was lit in him. And he was... normally cool, calm, and collected Ren was very not cool, calm, or collected during this fight. Obviously, you know, Ren is actually quite an emotional person, but he's usually pretty good at controlling that sort of thing, especially when it comes to Nora. And he's obviously haunted and was somewhat traumatized by the events that happened to him when he was younger. And he feels a great deal of protectiveness towards Nora ever since they met during that massacre. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about how Jean was the one to go and grab Crow and get him to safety. I thought this was interesting when I first saw the episode, because John obviously isn't terribly fond of Uncle Crow for certain reasons, but I felt like the reason Jean was the one to think about going and getting Crow and getting him to safety was because Jean lost somebody extremely dear to him, and now he feels a responsibility, I guess, and a duty to make sure that nobody else gets killed. And, like, that's very deep-seated within him. His priority is making sure that everyone around him is okay, even at the expense of himself. Yeah. Ren's semblance. So, they haven't really spelled out exactly what Ren's semblance is, and obviously semblances start out as one thing, and then over time they're developed to become, you know, something more than that. So he was able to use it from a distance to disguise Jean and Crow at the same time from the Nuclevi. So it's some kind of... But it seemed to
require concentration.
Yeah, it required, like, complete concentration and probably drained quite a bit of his aura in the process. Yeah, so he's obviously been developing this over time and, you know, discovered he can use it from a distance. He doesn't have to necessarily touch people and... But what it is exactly isn't terribly clear, but it seems to be some kind of, like, emotion-negating effect. So, because the Grimm are drawn to negative emotions. So if they can no longer sense the negative emotions of people, they ignore them. Yeah, so he just basically strips people of their emotion, which is handy when you're fighting something like Grimm. Apologies, Cory's internet just had a seizure, apparently. What were we talking about? Ren's semblance. We were talking about Ren's semblance. Yeah.
I was in the middle of saying something.
You were.
Oh, you said that you thought, like, it stripped them of their emotions, but, like, you know, when he used it on Jean and Crow, Jean still seemed kind of freaked out. So I wonder if it almost isn't just, like, purely, like, emotion masking, kind of.
Yeah, more like
Instead
a cloak.
Of, like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. Like, again, they haven't given us any specifics, so it's kind of... We just have to judge it based on what we see. Yeah, no, it could very well be a sort of a cloaking thing. Rather than physically stripping people's emotions. Yeah, before we continue talking about the episode, though, I feel like I should probably talk about RTX Sydney briefly, because I did attend RTX Sydney last weekend, as you probably know. And I got to see the finale to Volume 4 live 9 hours ahead of time in a panel room, which was amazing. And I did, in fact, manage to get my reaction to the entire episode during that screening. So that will be coming out when the episode comes out on YouTube, and I will upload that, and it's pretty awesome, so you might want to check that one out. Also, Larissa from Nerds of Oz was sitting next to me during the screening, also filming her own face for her reaction, so the two of us are going to have a live reaction, excuse me, I hiccuped, in the room. There was about 200 people in there, and they ended up doing 2 screenings, so about 400 got to see it. The lines were insane. We were lined up for 2.5 hours waiting for that. So, and we missed Off Topic because that was full 45 minutes ahead of time. But it's lucky we did, or we wouldn't have seen the finale. So, yeah. I don't want to talk too much about RTX Sydney because I vlogged every day while I was there. I was in Sydney for 4 days, and I vlogged every day, and I'll be releasing 1 vlog per day. I have no idea how long they're going to be because I filmed a lot. Yeah, so those are going to come out at some point when they're done. I'll start releasing them when they're done. Hopefully by the end of this week I'll start releasing them. Yeah, but they're good. So, we had an amazing time. We got to meet a lot of people, really cool people, and it was really fun attending the event with Larissa and her boyfriend Chris as well, and I'm sure we'll be staying in touch with them and attending future RTXs together as well. So, yeah, that's that. Oh, I wanted to talk about after Jean gets Crow safely out of the way, Crow kind of grabs his arm, but doesn't say anything, and just sort of gives him this look that kind of says, you know, be careful and don't get killed. Crow is secretly a very caring person, I think. He cares a lot about these young people who are, you know, putting themselves in imminent danger for the sake of others, and he doesn't want them to get hurt, especially not because, you know, he's incapable of protecting them. Yeah, so the Knucklevi. So it has stretchy arms, which is something I wasn't expecting. I remember thinking it's like Elastigirl from The Incredibles. You know, he just, like, stretches them as far as he wants and flings them around. Oh, look what I got just in time for the finale podcast as well. Thank you, Rooster Teeth Store. And there was a bit where Team Ranger started circling the Knucklevi, and it kind of reminded me of playing Grim Eclipse, like just running circles around the Grim to get them to group together. Just I thought that was funny. It reminded me of the game. So, first big thing in this episode was the reveal that Jean made yet another modification to his weapon, in that it turns into a greatsword. I remember being blown away by this during the screening, but like I didn't even think about that being a possibility. It's funny how they manage to spring these little like reveals on us all the time, like, oh, and this weapon can also do this. It's like
yeah, so, but it makes perfect sense, though.
It does make perfect sense. Obviously, he made this modification when he had all of his weapon upgraded and that while they were in God, I forget the village's name now. Such a long time ago.
Onieri, or was that a different one?
No, that was the other one that never got finished. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget what the first village's name is called.
I have it in my notes. I can go back.
God, it's all the way back in episode 1. It's such a long time ago. Yeah, so, yeah, obviously he made this modification, but it's such a good idea, and, like, it makes a lot of sense to do that. And it like, really shows us how well John is able to handle himself now. I also want to talk about, so we talked last podcast with Alex about the Lucis Notori motif repeating a lot for the Grimm this volume, and we heard it here again while the Nuclevi was doing its thing, being really creepy. But it was kind of like a more epic sort of rendition. That Grimm was so scary, especially because of the tension of, like, everybody was tense, like, wondering who's gonna die, like, what's gonna happen. And it just made it all the more worse, I think. I really like that motive.
Especially because it's a Grimm we know has killed a lot of people.
A lot of people. Basically single-handed as well. So, so then Ren, Ren gets pinned by the Nuclevi, and RWBY does this kind of launching maneuver with Nora with her scythe, which I thought was pretty cool and animated really well as well. The animation in this episode in particular was really immaculate. So then Nora also gets pinned, and she's kind of hanging there above Ren, and she tells him to stop looking, and he makes this noise like, "Gah." Such a funny noise. But I was like, you can't... It's funny because they do this thing with the girls' skirts where, like, they have, like, this block of, you know, you can't see up them, obviously, because they don't, you know, they want to keep it PG rated. But I just thought that was funny because, yeah, you can't actually, but anyway.
And just that they're in the middle of a fight, she just saved his life.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Don't look up my skirt." And
Don't look at
like,
my skirt.
He was like, "I'm sorry, I was thanking you for saving me."
Yeah, he's like, "I'm not looking, I promise." So I want to talk about Samantha Ireland and Neith Ulm's performances this volume, because they have been absolutely stellar, especially Neith. Going from volume 3 to this volume, it's incredible how much he's grown in the role of Ren. And he's really come out of his shell, and he's doing an excellent job. For somebody who has had no prior professional experience as a voice actor or anything, he's doing a phenomenal job. And Samantha Ireland as well, you know, playing a character that's usually pretty, you know, bubbly and happy-go-lucky. It's been a real... I can imagine that it's been very different voicing Nora this volume, especially in this episode, because there was, you know, that moment between her and Ren where she was saying, you know, you're not going to go kill yourself like this, and, like, all this kind of really heavy stuff that Nora doesn't normally say. Yeah, so I want to commend both of them for their performances this volume, because they've been outstanding. And everybody has stepped up to new dynamics in their roles that they haven't previously had, like Barbara with Yang and Lindsay with RWBY as well, especially in this chapter again. Some pretty heavily emotional stuff. And RWBY also being somebody who's normally pretty happy-go-lucky. Even throughout the, like, second half of this volume, RWBY's, you know, had to deal with some pretty heavy shit. And at the end of last volume as well. Her saying "I love you" to Yang just gets me every time, because it's just, like, so sad and innocent. It's like, it hits me right in the feels. So John, in this chapter, I was really impressed with. He was incredibly courageous, and especially that part when Ren and Nora are hiding under a house, because their auras have both gone down, so... and John just kind of, like, stops the Nuclevi from getting to them. He's filled with a fresh determination off of last volume, I think, and he's fueled with a courage that I think Pyrrha's given him spiritually. Yeah, he's really determined that no one else he loves is going to die. and that makes him an incredibly powerful weapon. But I'm glad to see that, unlike Ren in this chapter, he is harnessing that, you know, that emotion that he has and really learning to control it and use it to his benefit rather than, you know, being reckless. And he actually calls out to Ren and says...
blind, like, anger.
Yeah, he calls out to Ren and says, you know, get it together, man. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, knock it off.
Knock it off. That's what he says, yeah. Yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed with Jean this volume. He's been a real figure of strength throughout the entire volume, despite what he's been through and losing Pyrrha, in the way that all of that happened. So Nora slapped some sense into Ren.
Literally.
Which was a moment we all kind of went, ooh, at, but, you know, it was pretty necessary.
Yeah, we were all like, oh, Nora's about to say something important.
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of needed that, though, in that moment. You know, he was so focused on, like, I've got to get back out there and kill this thing, even though, you know, like, my aura just went down and I'm fucked if I get hit. Yeah, so he really needed her in that moment to knock some sense into him. And, yeah, that was kind of the turning point for the entire fight as well. RWBY's scythe maneuvers in this fight were...
Oh, that's on my notes, too.
Yeah, they were really good and animated extremely well, as well. And, going from the Volume 4 character short, or trailer, from this to this finale, I almost want to say that, like, RWBY, especially the way that she's fighting, is, like, reminding me more and more of the way Monty used to animate her. Which is, like, something that's really exciting to see, that kind of caliber of animation coming back into the show. It's not the same, obviously, and it will never be the same, but they are really growing in, like, learning how to animate the way every character fights. And, really making sure that the characters utilize their fighting styles to the best of their ability, and their semblances as well. She was looking in excellent form in that fight. Yeah, I was really impressed with what they were doing with her.
Plus, that just also showed how dangerous the Nuclevi was, like, how fast she was, and the Nuclevi was still kind of able to grab and kick the shit out of her.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Whoa.
She is really fast, but he was just as fast. She was having to, you know, really, like, stay focused and stay on her toes to even keep half a step ahead of him. So, yeah, I liked the move where Ren used Jean's shield to pin the Nuclevi's arm down. I thought that was pretty, you know, it was a clever use of, because obviously Ren's weapons are lying on the ground over there somewhere, so he didn't exactly have time to run over and get them, but yeah, that was an interesting move. Ren completely makes that Nuclevi his bitch. It was so pleasing to watch. Because that freaking thing is, you know, it's really old. It's been around for a long-ass time. And it's killed a lot of people and ruined a lot of lives, including Ren's. And it's a really triumphant moment when, like, they've got its arms pinned down, Nora's got the horse pinned down, and Ren's like, you're not going anywhere, and starts hacking its limbs off. I like the bit where, before he cuts the second arm off, he grabs the Nuclevi's horn, and is just like, for my father. I was like, yes, Ren! That was a really good moment of, you know, he was saying, for all these people that you've killed. And then for himself as well.
Yeah, I love that moment, but I almost felt like in that moment the Nuclevi, like, all the power that the Nuclevi had, like, and the threat it had imposed just, like, disappeared. It was kind of like it was kind of a weird moment, because I did, like, you know, they managed to, like, Nora with that one hit basically killed the horse, and, like, they had its arms pinned, and, like, you know, I felt like the Nuclevi was just, in that moment, it was too easy to defeat.
Well,
And, like,
I mean,
I was like,
it's a pretty, like, slow maneuvering kind of thing. It's just incredibly powerful, and without its arms, that is its main source of offense, it really doesn't have much after that. I think the way that the Nuclear works is that it's designed so that its arms move so fast that you can't get close enough to it. I think, though, because they're a team of 4, huntsmen and huntresses in training who have been through this journey over the last few months fighting all different calibers of Grimm, that they were even able to take it on. I think, like, one professionally trained huntsman would have been screwed. But for, these 4 people in particular, going through what they've gone through over the last few months, they were able to work really well together to take it down. Also, Jean's just really good at strategizing. Like, his idea of the circle thing was good in theory until the Nuclear turned into a helicopter.
yeah.
But, they just work so well together as a unit because they're really determined to keep each other safe, but not always to the point where it endangers them. They're determined to keep each other safe and to work together because they know that they when they work together, they can defeat their foes, but they also know that each one can take care of themselves. So that's a really good dynamic for them to have, and I think it's the only reason they were successful here. If they were totally like a disorganized, band of whoever's, they would have stood no chance. But also, Ren and Nora, I think, personally had a lot staking on this as well, and they wanted to make sure that this Grimm couldn't go back out there and hurt anybody else. So, yeah. So Nora jumped on Ren after the fight, which I thought was really cute. It kind of broke all of that tension everyone had been feeling over the last, 8 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah, that hug was, like, kind of the final moment of, like, it's over.
Yeah, it's over. We can relax now. Yeah, like, yeah, because, everybody was expecting, death and horrible things are going to happen. Ren's going to die. It's going to be awful. And then Crow's going to, like, fade away while it's all going on. But, yeah, no, it was all okay. These airships showed up to take them to Mistral. And an interesting thing I noticed about the airships is that they look more like ships than the airships we're used to seeing in the city, like the ones that James Ironwood has in his army. These ones are more like, they gave me a really, like, Treasure Planet vibe, if you've seen that film.
Oh, yeah.
The spaceships that actually look like, ships.
Pirate ships.
Yeah, pirate ships, exactly. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. And the city of Mistral. Not at all what I was expecting.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
After I went back and rewatched the World of Remnant they did on Mistral, and after rewatching it, I was like, oh, I probably should have expected this, because they talked about how, like, it was kind of built into mountains and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't really register that.
That's why, like, when I saw the city, I was like, oh my god, it's like, the city grows up instead of out, and, like...
Yeah, it was really... It actually reminded me a little bit of Rivendell and a little bit of Waterfall City from Dinotopia, which is a really obscure reference. I don't think a lot of people would have seen that. It's a terrible miniseries, but yeah, it kind of reminded me of that city, like waterfalls pouring out and everything's one with nature, and yeah, it's really, like, when I first saw it, I didn't even realize it was Mistral. Because it was so not what I was expecting. I don't really know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, while they're on the airship, Ren and Nora kind of sat there next to each other. And there's Boop that starts playing on piano. And then it suddenly stops. And I was like, why did the music... It's funny that it, like, goes boop and stops right as, Ren puts his hand on Nora, because she's like... So, the Renora ship has sailed. and I couldn't be happier. I feel like it's not until chapter 10 that we started to see that Ren could actually reciprocate the feelings that Nora has for him, has always had. This was an adorable moment, and I'm so glad that that ship is sailing. I was really worried that we were going to come out of this with, you know, a dead Ren.
I was convinced. You managed to convince me, but
I know.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad we were wrong.
I'm so relieved that we were wrong, but at the same time, I feel like now this is setting up for next volume to be a little dark on the darker side, as well. Because
the others are happy, then they can take it away again.
Yeah. This finale was just so good in a lot of ways. It just made us. It left us feeling good. Good things happened. And, like, now I feel like they're setting it up for the next volume to be not so good. But, yeah, what was I talking about? So once they've reached Mistral, there's a new song that starts playing that doesn't have a name yet and only has, 4 lines of lyrics in the actual episode. And it wasn't listed in the credits either. We're calling it Home for now. I can only assume the reason it wasn't listed in the credits is because it's very much in the early primitive sort of stages and is nowhere near finished. But yeah, I'm hoping that becomes a full-length thing. I'm assuming it will be, because it sounds really pretty and tear-jerking. There's always gonna...
for you about that, though.
Yeah?
Who do you think that the song is, like, kind of about? Because I think it almost is a Ren and Nora song because of when it starts.
I don't know. I feel like it's a Team Ranger sort of song. Because, it's about, we don't know where we're going next. We don't know what's going to happen. But when we're together, we're at home. And, or the lyrics say, I know that when I'm with you, I'm at home. I think it's just more of a general sort of, like, for the journey that Team Ranger have gone on this volume. As long as they always keep saying, as long as we're together, everything's going to be okay. We've got to stay together because we take care of each other. And, yeah, I feel like that's what that kind of... until we hear more lyrics, there's no way to know for sure because, the lyrics that we get aren't very telling. It's just kind of general. Also, it could be interpreted through, all of the girls' storylines, really. Blake, and Sun, and Yang.
Well, actually also physically went home.
Yeah, exactly. Blake and Sun, and Blake and her family, Yang and her father, Yang and her sister, Weiss and the rest of Team RWBY, and Weiss and Klein even. Like, it can be interpreted in a number of different ways. It's a very general sort of, each of the characters has their their bonds with the other characters, and that feeling of being at home with somebody. So yeah, I think it's just going to be like a general sort of thing for the entire volume, I think, and the journeys that all the girls have gone on. So RWBY starts writing a letter to Yang, and apparently she's been doing this over the course of the months, but we don't know how many of them have reached Yang and Tai, if any at all.
I kind of think none.
Yeah, because in chapter 11, I think it was, Tai says to Yang, we both read the note, we know your sister's heading to Mistral, but I think he's talking about the note she left at the end of Volume 3 when she actually ran away. So yeah, we can only assume that this is the only letter that actually reached them. And that may be because she actually sent it from Mistral, which, probably has more reliable forms of courier delivery than, the middle of nowhere. Also, I know you want to talk about this. Something that bothered us both is that RWBY's writing with her right hand. She's left-handed. Or she's supposed to be left-handed. Monty, as far as I know, Monty said that she was left-handed, and in Volume 1 she wrote with her left hand. So I'm not sure why they decided to make her right-handed now. Maybe it could have just been an oversight.
More than a design, yeah.
It could have just been a complete oversight. Really, I don't think it matters all that much. But I know people get annoyed when these sort of, like, inconsistencies pop up. So, and it is an inconsistency that probably should be addressed. But I want to talk about the score over this next, like, 8 or 9 minute montage or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So the score stays I can't say this word. The majority of it is piano and some orchestral arrangement as well. And it kind of moves from theme to theme. There's a couple in there that I can't identify, but it kind of goes from Home to This Life Is Mine to From Shadows to something else to Cold to Cinder's Theme and then to Let's Just Live towards the end. So it kind of like moves through the motions as the different characters appear on screen. Something else we need to address is in the Cinder bit during this montage sort of thing. The Ruby Illusion is wearing her Volume 4 costume, and some people got uppity about that because how would they know what she looks like? It's a very simple technicality in that they've had to redo all of the character models wearing their new outfits because they're using a different program now to animate. They're not gonna make an entirely new model of Ruby wearing her old outfit just for 10 seconds of screen time. It's logistically not realistic. So that, like, I feel like a lot of people don't think about it that way because they just like, oh, why shouldn't they be able to? No, it's a lot of work for 10 seconds of screen time.
Of work for that.
It's a lot. It's too much work, and it would create a lot of problems as well with the physics engine. Like the physics engine works differently depending on, you know, skirts and capes and that sort of thing. And yeah, it's just not realistic to have expected them to do that. You know, it's such a short amount of time. It doesn't really matter. And it would have looked weird.
Explain that away with like they're spying on her. Because, like, here's the thing. Tyrion has seen what Ruby looks like.
Yes, he has.
So, and we know Tyrion's there. So, like, I know maybe in some weird sort of way that could explain it. I don't know. Yeah.
And also, I feel like it would have looked really weird as well if she was in her old garb. Because we're so used to this one now. So it showed Yang, she kind of arrived at a signpost, you know, one way was bandits, which was Kurayuri, and then the other way was Mistral. And Tai Yang asked her at the end, in chapter 11, you know, your sister's out there, but your mother's out there too, and where are you going to go? So I'm really happy that she chose Ruby over her mother. Like, her mother's not going anywhere. That can wait, but what Ruby is dealing with really can't wait. It's more important at this stage. So Yang chose correctly, I feel. And
yeah, I saw some people asking, like, they were like, which one do you think she picked and everything? And I was like, I thought it was very obvious.
It was extremely obvious, yeah, because, you know, she was facing towards the Mistral
the way
path.
She turned her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And,
the way she turned the motorcycle and everything, and then she just drove straight off.
The voiceover of Ruby's was, you know, talking about, you know, I hope you come and meet up with us, and Cory told us things you need to hear, and then she says, you're in so much trouble when I find you. I thought all of that made it extremely obvious which way she was going, but some people were still like, which way do you think she went? The way she was facing? Isn't it obvious?
I thought everything very...
Yeah.
Especially because why would she say that about her mother, who she's met once?
Very briefly. Yeah. And, like, yeah, she was facing towards the Mistral path. Like, yeah, I don't know how people missed that, but they did, apparently. So the end of the episode, we are shown a scene that is causing a lot of, like, I don't want to say confusion, but, you know, we don't know entirely all of the circumstances surrounding what's going on, but Dr. Watts is in Professor Lionheart's office, and he says, Salem always did say you were quite hospitable. So Professor Lionheart knows who Salem is. They know who Dr. Watts is. It's up in the air at this moment which side Professor Lionheart is on, if they're on a side at all. The reason I thought it was a woman is because it looks like they're wearing a skirt. Who the heck is this? Somebody's checking my water meter out the front. It's really weird. Yeah, so at this time we can't really say whether or not Professor Lionheart is in cahoots with Salem, but it's definitely looking like he is not to be trusted at this stage.
I think Watts is going to manipulate Lionheart.
I agree.
Into, you know, like he says that, okay, we will help you, blah blah blah, and like he's gonna like get him to do something that'll just make it easier to destroy Haven.
Yeah,
and he'll probably something kind of small, like almost like what they did with the Atlas forces, where they just like will take, like I don't know, maybe he'll just have them put, I don't know, who knows, but he's definitely gonna manipulate Lionheart into something that will cause the fall of Haven.
I feel like Dr. Watts is going to try and convince Lionheart to give him the relic as well, because then there wouldn't be a need for the fall of Haven. I don't feel like the fall of Haven is going to be a thing, just because the fall of Beacon had impacted the world so deeply and impacted the characters so deeply. I feel like Team Ranger and Crow and Oscar are not going to let the fall of Haven happen, no matter what. Like, I feel like they're going to sacrifice everything to make sure Haven does not fall. Yeah, I don't think this arc is ending with the fall of Haven. I feel like it's not going to end well, but I don't think Haven Academy is falling. Yeah, Professor Lionheart's a real wild card at this stage. They are based on the Cowardly Lion, because, you know, everybody's Wizard of Oz related. Yeah.
Which I'm hoping that means that Vacuos is Dorothy.
Yeah, probably. There's got to be at least one female headmaster, surely.
I know, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. We're given so little context to those circumstances. Deliberately, because they want us to watch next volume. Watch next volume. We'll find out what exactly Professor Lionheart is all about. But I know that Team Ranger and Crow should not readily trust them at all. Especially not after...
I mean, Ironwood doesn't, so...
No, Ironwood, yeah. He says he doesn't trust Leo to handle, you know, the threat that's approaching Haven that Winter told him about. So, we may even see, like, a military-grade takeover from James Ironwood over the course of Volume 5. He may
I don't think so, because that went so bad last time.
It did, but I feel like he's gonna try and overthrow the headmasters and do things his way. I don't know, yeah. I feel like I'm not gonna like James again by the end of next volume. He keeps going so up and down.
About him.
I mean, his heart is in the right place, but his head certainly isn't. And he lacks the knowledge that people like Ozpin and Crow have. So, we know there's something more going on behind all of this, whereas James is a little bit in the dark about all of that. So the credits song. Armed and Ready. Nice pun, Jeff. This song is about Yang and her journey over the course of this volume and leading into Volume 5. And it's a really good song, and we'll talk about some of the lyrics. And then we'll talk about the end credits scene after that. So some of the first words are, my eyes are open wide, I'm racing to her side, there's nothing that I won't do for her. So she's talking about Blake, because she's recalling
thank God.
The events of chapter 11 of last volume. Cory is itching to talk about this.
I was very glad you caught that. Because the first time I heard this song, I thought she was referring to RWBY, but that was also when I couldn't really understand the rest of it, but I heard those two lines clearly. Thought she was talking about RWBY, because obviously she's going to meet RWBY. But, like, if you look at the context of, like, the first 3 verses, like, she's clearly still discussing her nightmares and
she's
the
recalling
events
those events. Yeah.
So she's racing to Blake's side to save her. There's nothing that she won't do for her, including, I guess, lose an arm.
I don't think she expected to lose an arm going into that fight. Yeah, but, she acted impulsively because, Blake was... Thank you, phone. Blake was hurt, and she was... no, William, you're not too late to ask a question. Okay, we'll address that in a second. Yeah, so obviously, like, Yang and Blake... Blake said in chapter 11, I believe it was, RWBY, Weiss, Yang, they were my friends. I loved them like I never thought I could love anyone. And those 4 girls being a team, and I imagine every team share a very special bond in that they're together all the time. They're incredibly close. Their lives are in each other's hands at all times. And you can't help but form an incredibly close bond with people like that. And, Yang says here, there's nothing that I won't do for her. And, like, I don't want to get into Bumblebee territory here, but...
I do.
Yeah, I know you do, you filthy shipper. Yeah, but, like, Yang... I feel like people know what I'm trying to say, but, yeah, these girls...
I think what you're trying to say is that, like, they've fought together so much, and they've grown so close over this year that, like, I mean, not even just Blake and Yang, like, Weiss and RWBY, Weiss and Blake, like, they would all do anything for each other.
Yes, they would, yeah. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Cory knows. So the next line I wanted to address was, I found the strength to grow to so much more. A whisper to a roar. No more crying. It's time for me to soar. I really liked that series of lines. I was like, yes, Yang. Like, the old Yang is definitely coming back here. I was surprised to see how quickly she did recover. I feel like getting her new arm helped a lot with that. If she hadn't have, taken that step, she wouldn't have grown and recovered as quickly as she did. Because now she feels like, she's not helpless anymore. She's back to her former strength. She's still carrying around a lot of emotional baggage to do with that, but I feel like she's going to put that at the back of her mind now and focus on finding her sister and helping her with what she's going through, because she wouldn't want her sister to be going through that alone while she has the strength to help her and to do something about it.
She's so motherly.
Yes. Well, their mother died when they were pretty young, so Yang does feel motherly towards her younger sister in a way. Another line I really liked was, "You'll wish you'd killed me, now I'm stronger," in reference to Adam. So she does have, revenge and getting even on the mind. She hasn't forgotten, obviously, what Adam's done, and she will get her own back eventually, but for now she's focused on his sister. And she said, the next time we meet is your disaster. So I feel like if she ever goes up against Adam again, which eventually she probably will, she is not going to rush in hot-headed. She's going to take what her father has taught her over the last few weeks and everything that she's learned from being a hot-headed person who rushes in and asks questions later, and exactly where that gets her sometimes when her foe is stronger. Next time she fights Adam, he should be afraid. And I feel like
she'll probably have Blake and Son with her too.
I was gonna say, I feel like she won't be alone either. I feel like she will have at least Blake with her. Adam needs to watch out. Another line was, "The pain I went through left me with a new war cry." I like that because it kind of like, she went through this terrible ordeal. She lost an arm, which is something that doesn't happen to people in this universe, because Aura, the Aura protects them, and like, And the circumstances through which she endured that kind of trauma. It took her a while, but she bounced back really, really fiercely from that with, you know, a brand new determination to make sure that she never experiences that level of helplessness again. Yeah. And the last line I wanted to address was, try to resist once you meet my new fist, bye-bye. I was like, that's so good, because, you know, Taeyang talks about, like, that thing packs a punch. Like, it's made of metal, it would be heavy. It would hurt if you got hit with it. So, yeah, I'm liking the prospects of Yang for next volume. I'd like to see the old Yang back, but with a new outlook. You know, because the old Yang was reckless and impulsive and really hot-headed. I think Yang's learned too much from this entire experience to exactly go back to being her old self.
Well, she says somewhere in here in the song that something like I live my life like every day's the last.
Yeah, I'll live my life like every day's the last. Yeah.
And so it's like, I think she's definitely got a new outlook that, like, tomorrow I could die. Like, might as well, you know, like...
I could lose another arm, you know, like, exactly. And, you know, she says in Volume 2, when she's talking about why she wanted to be a huntress, she said, I want a life where I won't know what tomorrow will bring, and that will be a good thing. And, I think she still holds that, you know, that desire to have that kind of life where, you know, tomorrow I could be killed, but, you know, I'll just live in the moment and do what I can while I'm still here. Yeah, so the end credits scene. Oscar and Crow. This is something I wasn't expecting to be after the credits. And it was the longest end credit scene we've ever had as well. Call dropped. No idea why, but we were about to talk about the end credits scene. So, yeah, Oscar tells Crow, I'd like my cane back. And, you know...
He sounds so unsure about it, too.
Yeah.
I'd like my cane back?
It's like, I need to tell you this, but I don't understand why.
Yeah.
And, like, Crow, you know, he's clued into all of this, so he obviously knows a lot more about what Ozpin's deal is than we first thought that he does. He's probably more clued in than, you know, Glinda and especially Ironwood are, and the other headmasters. Yeah, so he knows that that's Ozpin in there, guiding this, you know, pipsqueak as he calls him. So, yeah, that's going to be a really interesting dynamic next volume, I think. Oscar and Crow. Kind of a weird, like, sort of pairing, I think.
Well, one thing I like most about it is I like to imagine that Ozpin was like, okay, well, now we need to meet up with my friend Crow. Check bars.
Yeah. Check cheap, shitty, like, dingy bars.
And Oscar's like, okay.
Okay.
And then finds him.
So, William Oliver asked a question on Twitter while we were talking about that, and he said, who are you expecting or hoping to appear in Volume 5? So, Professor Lionheart, for one. Sienna Khan.
We're going to see it.
Sienna Khan for another.
I think we're going to see her.
Yes.
Him, them.
It.
They.
It's they, them. Winter Schnee.
We're probably going to see her, but yeah.
Yeah. The rest of Team Sun, that would be nice.
Yes. Yeah.
Adam.
Ooh, I could do without him.
No, I'm expecting to see him. I'm not hoping to see him. Who else? Raven. I think that's pretty much it. I can't think of anyone else who would really be in the picture at this stage. Neo!
Yeah.
Oh, dog!
Neo. I keep forgetting about Neo.
Kira, why did you just kick my chair? You scared the shit out of me. Oliver's being
'cause
adorable next to me.
I'm
right
trying to
now.
think of from the tournament, like, where everybody was from. But
Um,
I'm kind of like, the only people from the tournament I really want to see are Team Funky.
Oh, do you know who's from Haven Academy? Team Indigo? Oh, no, they're not. They're from Vacuo. They're from Vacuo, sorry. Yeah, there goes the garage door.
Yeah, they're from Vacuo.
Vacuo, yeah, no, never mind. Disregard me.
What about Team Auburn? Was that the
Team
name?
Auburn were Haven. Yes, they were. They were Haven Academy.
I kind of doubt that. I think that a lot of those characters, especially since they switched engines, are going to be one-offs. Except maybe Funky.
Funky, I feel like we'll see
Funky
again
so much.
eventually. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
they're on Atlas is the only problem.
Yeah, exactly. And we've moved away from Atlas now with Weiss's storyline, so and now even Ironwood is moving out of Atlas as well.
You know who I would love to see?
Who?
Penny.
I don't think so.
Penny 2.0.
I think Mr. Polendina maybe, but not Penny.
I was really hoping to see him.
There's too much going on in this volume, and we didn't see a lot of people that we've spent quite a bit of time with over the course of last volume. But, that will happen. They'll disappear, Raven disappeared for an entire volume and then came back.
For one scene.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Neo. So, when I was at the RWBY panel, somebody asked, where's Neo and are we seeing her again? They said, we're not going to say where she is or what her status is, but she will be back in the show. So, I'm hoping to see Neo next volume.
She's going to come back scary.
Yeah, she is. They also would not talk about whether she has a voice actress or not. Okay.
What was that?
That was Joshua's alarm.
Oh.
They addressed the fact that, some people said that because Neo gasped in chapter 11 of last volume, they're like, that means she has a voice actress. And Miles was like, that doesn't mean shit. Like, don't take that and assume that means she's gonna be voiced, because, they made a decision about it last year, but they're not gonna say what that decision was. So,
I hope she's mute. I hope she never talks.
Yeah, I hope she's mute just because it's different, Everybody else talks. She still hasn't said a single word. So, yeah, I hope she stays mute. She's an interesting character that way. Well, she's an interesting character anyway, but I feel like talking would almost ruin her. So I hope they don't make her talk.
She already has so much personality in her not talking and just smiling at people and
she's creepy and sassy.
So effortless.
And she's really creepy and sassy. And it would ruin Neo if she spoke. So I hope they don't make her talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or if they do, it's like once and that's it.
Yeah. I don't know, to say you bitch, and then I'm dead or something.
Fuck you. No, that's never gonna happen. But it'd be funny.
I
don't know where I saw or heard this, but I remember seeing or hearing it somewhere. Somebody said that it would be really funny that if when Neo spoke, she had just a really deep voice. Yeah, exactly. I was like, that would be funny. But I doubt it. So I think that pretty much concludes that. So we're going to talk about Volume 5 predictions now.
Well, one thing I did want to talk about is just what were your thoughts on the volume as a whole?
I thought... Oof, that's a loaded question. You can't just spring this shit on me. I need time to think about this.
I could go first.
Go for it.
Okay. I was a little disappointed.
Really?
I'm sorry. It was just I don't know. They kind of set up the season to be them dealing with the trauma of last year, and I didn't feel like they did a lot of healing, especially Yang. It kind of felt like Yang got her new arm and then her problems went away.
Yeah, it did almost feel like that.
Because, like, especially, like, in her first few scenes, like, they show her with, like, the PTSD and everything, but that just goes away.
I don't know that it so much goes away as that they didn't feel it very necessary to continue to, like, show that physically. Like, we know that that's all going on up there for her. And she did have that big pep talk with Port and Oobleck, which I felt like helped her a lot on her path to, you know, taking that step. Because she said she was scared to put the arm on because, like, she was scared of you know, because not having the arm, that was her normal now. And she was scared of things changing again. And she didn't know what to expect. Sorry, it's boiling hot in here. It's 41 degrees today.
Yikes.
Yeah, well, it's going to be. It's not yet. But it will get there. What was I talking about? Yeah, no, I felt like there was a lack of development in Yang's area especially, but I feel like that can all be pinned down to screen time. They really had a lot of plot points that they had to get to, and I feel like the only reason we didn't see as much development as we should have is because there was just not enough time to show it. Yeah, I mean, it's been different this year. They've had to figure out how to balance everybody's screen time and everybody's stories. Again, this is like, you know, the first volume of the new arc. Everything's changed, everything's different. I feel like by the time we get to Volume 5, they'll have figured it out a little better, and then Volume 6 even better still. So, by Volume 6, hopefully everybody's back together, but...
Oh, I think they're going to be back together, like, first, second episode of 5. Because, like, they're already all... I mean, like, Weiss is on her way. You know, Yang is about to arrive.
Blake is about to be on her way.
One.
Blake will be last because she's going to take a boat, so that will take time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, Weiss will probably, you know, Yang's nearly there, Weiss is on her way. So, but it's a question of, are they going to even run into each other or not? Because Weiss is going to see her sister. She's not going there. She doesn't know RWBY and Yang are there. So, she's not going there for them. She's going there for her sister. So, I feel like they're not going to be reunited too quickly. I feel like RWBY and Yang will be reunited pretty much immediately. But Weiss, it might take some time, and Blake even more time still before they... I'm looking forward to Yang and Blake meeting again. Because I really want Yang to just kind of be mad at her. I'm not sure why I want that, but I just do, because, you know... I want Yang to, I don't want Yang to do a thing where she's like, oh, it's okay. You know, I'd do anything for you. It's fine that I lost my arm for you and then you just pissed off without any explanation whatsoever. No! I want her to be mad and demand answers, is what I want. And I feel like that's more typical of Yang as well.
I don't know if necessarily mad is what I want, but I want her to just kind of, like, see her, be, like, relieved to see her and, like, oh my god, you're okay. And then to be like, why did you leave?
Bitch, why did you leave me? I took an arm for you. Yeah, I want her to demand answers from Blake and be like, what the hell? Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what I'm looking forward to most about Volume 5. As for immediately where this story's going next, RWBY said Crow's taking them to see Professor Lionheart, so we'll see that pretty early on. Yang is about to arrive in Mistral. I feel like Weiss may arrive in Mistral around episode 2, episode 3. Blake won't arrive until a bit later than that, I think. But, again, I think Weiss and Blake are going to stay separated from Yang and RWBY for a bit, because they're all there for their different reasons. And Blake and Weiss don't know that Yang and RWBY are there. And Blake doesn't know Weiss is going there, and Weiss doesn't know Blake's going there. So, like, they're all going to be in the same area, but they're not going to know each other is there until circumstances bring them together.
Yeah, I still feel like, though, it'll be easier for them to manage that screen time then. Because, like, it could just be a thing where it's like, you know, RWBY and Yang are, like, leaving a scene and they turn a corner, and then in walks Weiss, and then, you know, like, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like... I don't know.
I'm really looking forward to Weiss being reunited with Ruby and Yang as well. I just want Weiss to run up and give Ruby a hug, or Ruby run up and give Weiss a hug. I'm just like, that will complete me. If I see that happen, I want them to be ecstatic to see each other.
Yeah.
Because Ruby and Weiss have had such a complicated relationship over the last 3 volumes, and by the end of Volume 3, you know, in Chapter 12, when, like, you know, Yang had just lost her arm, and Weiss saw Ruby finally, they didn't know where she was, and, you know, and, like, Ruby runs up to her, and they kind of hold each other's hands, and she's like, Ruby, where have you been? And, like, you know, genuinely showing concern for her friend. And, yeah, when they get reunited, I just want them to hug. That's all I want. I want them to be happy to see each other.
Once all 4 of them are together and some things are squared away, I just want a big hug.
I know, right? I just want them to all just hug and cry. Because I feel like that's what the fandom will do. We will just hug each other and cry when they all get reunited, eventually. I feel like that's going to happen towards the end of Volume 5, though. Maybe around, like, Chapter 9-ish? 8, 9, 10-ish? Yeah, just because Blake's going to take some time to get there, and, like, she's got her own agenda there, Weiss has got her own agenda there, Ruby and Yang will be the focus of the reunion sort of part of Team RWBY, for the first sort of 4 to 5-ish episodes, and then Weiss may come into the picture, and then Blake will come into the picture even later.
I guess it will just honestly depend on what exactly Winter's mission within Mistral is. Because I still feel like, you know, whatever Lionheart tells Ranger and Yang, like, will probably bring them, Weiss and Ranger, closer together. Whereas, like, Blake might kind of take a little bit more time because hers is more connected to the White Fang.
Yeah, not related to... Yeah. Well, it's related to the threat on Mistral, but her role in all of this is that she wants to take the White Fang back. Her focus is the White Fang. She doesn't know the rest of Team RWBY is going to be there, so...
I have a question. Is Gira and Kali going with them?
I hope so. But I don't think so.
I hope at least Gira.
I don't...
think if one of them is going, it'll be Gira.
I hope so, but
Kali will, like, take over as chief or something.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think they're going to stay in Menagerie, sadly, because I really like their characters, and I'd like to see what Gira can do.
But safely.
Yeah, exactly, safely. Well, unless the White Fang, you know, destroys Menagerie.
No, safely. Safely.
Nobody die. It's gonna be okay. I don't want to be left feeling really hopeful after this finale, because then I feel like bad things will catch me off guard when they inevitably happen.
No. Safely, though.
Yes. Well, I wish they would, but I don't think they will. I think Blake and Sun will handle this. Ow! I just hurt my foot, sorry. I think they will handle this themselves. Hello, Oliver. Yeah, as for Weiss, she's going there to meet her sister, so I'm excited to be seeing Winter again. And I'm just basically interested to see where everybody goes from here. Where's Hazel going?
To meet Sienna Khan.
That's right. And Sienna Khan is where? In Mistral. So...
In Mistral, we're guessing, because of Hazel's proximity to Mistral.
Yeah, so there's the Sienna Khan and all of that. I wonder if Blake and Sun are going to go see Sienna Khan.
That's my best guess. It's because, like, they have information that Adam Taurus is going to
attack Mistral. Yeah.
Well, attack Sienna Khan. Attack the White Fang.
Yeah, Sienna Khan's another wild card right now. I'm not sure if she is legitimately unaware of what Adam's doing, or if she's actually giving the orders.
Yeah.
And, you know, Gira's been fed false information.
Well, based on what Salem says, I don't know if, like, necessarily, like, I don't think she's been giving Adam orders necessarily,
Salem,
but I also don't think she's, like, maybe maybe she's just not totally cool with everything the way Fang did, but it's still like, yeah, human interest. Or faunus interest, not human interest.
Not human interest. Faunus interest, yeah.
Exact opposite of human interest.
Yeah. I had a thought and then I lost it. Oh, there's also the factor of Ilya and the Albane brothers, who were shown in the montage during this episode, you know, and Ruby's talking about there's bad people out there and they want to do bad shit. And that was a terrible Ruby impression, but, you know. Yeah, there's also that element as well of, you know, are we going to see Ilya and the Albane brothers next volume? I feel like yes, but maybe briefly. And whatever role they hold won't be huge if we do see them. Yeah, I feel like the focus now is shifting from all of that to Adam, Sienna Khan kind of dynamic here with the White Fang and Mistral. Yeah. That's my predictions. I'm probably going to be totally wrong, but we'll see. I didn't get much right about this, but, well, to be fair, we got a lot of things right, just not the people dying part of the finale. Yeah, which is a good thing. Us, like... They really did. We expected them to, you know, hurt us deeply again, but they didn't. But they will again, so we have to make sure they will. They will kill people again. Important people that we love, and we have to not be unprepared for that, like we were last time. So, Oliver, you're being adorable right now.
We all knew that. We all had a feeling that something terrible was going to happen to Pyrrha. Yeah. We didn't have any idea anything terrible was going to happen to Yang, but whoa. But, like, still, even Pyrrha's death was, like, something a lot of us kind of saw coming.
Yeah.
But, like, it was still also kind of shocking.
It still hurt, even though we saw it coming. It still hurt.
Oh, God.
Hi, Ollie.
Cute kitty.
He hates it when I do that. You're pretty.
Oh, I just realized something we never talked about. Yang's new outfit.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say, actually, I haven't seen enough of it yet to make up my mind about it, but the one thing is glaring for me and that I don't like is that on her prosthetic arm, she has the same glove as her other arm. I feel like I would have liked it better if she just had the prosthetic arm bare. You know, like if we could just see the entire arm, because the glove kind of makes it look a bit busy, and like hides the, you know, really cool paint job she just gave her brand new arm. I kind of, I wish she didn't have, I wish she only had the glove on the left hand and not the right. I'd like it if she would also, just...
like, if you think about... Or if it was almost the opposite, where, like, she only had the glove on the robot hand, like Ironwood does.
Yeah, I feel like, though, Yang's not the kind of person...
she needs to make a decision. She can't have both.
Yeah, I know, right? I feel like, you know, she's not the kind of person to hide who she is, so hiding her robotic arm doesn't really make sense for her character. I don't think it's about hiding it. I think it's about, you know, having the gloves on both hands, but it just looks a bit funny. I wish they'd do away with it and just have the arm just out for all to see. I feel like it would look cooler. But, you know, you want to get down, don't you? You don't want to be held right now. It's too hot. Yeah, so RWBY Chibi Season 2 we should talk about. So they confirmed there is going to be a second season at the panel. They will not say when it's coming out because they have no idea. So it's coming out when it comes out. Assume around the same time as last year. Maybe a little sooner. I don't know. But yeah, just it comes...
It's like summer, because they started releasing it during their like summer of animation.
They did, yeah.
So
hopefully a little sooner than that this year would be nice, but there's also the matter of when the Volume 4 soundtrack is coming out. They said they don't know when it's being released, as soon as possible. Judging by...
But Jeff posted on Facebook today.
Yeah, he did.
They're working. They still like have to decide on an acoustic song.
Yeah, so he posted on his Facebook, you know, he asked the community, what song do you want an acoustic version of for the Volume 4 soundtrack? Because traditionally they've done This Will Be the Day and then Time to Say Goodbye. But When It Falls would be kind of a funny song to do as an acoustic, which is why I feel like he's turned to the community for help. I feel like I May Fall would be a cool song to have an acoustic version of, and it was featured prominently in Volume 3. And yeah, so don't expect the soundtrack anytime soon. Expect, you know, relative around the same time as last year release. Last year they did have Laser Team, which held up the production of the Volume 3 soundtrack. But honestly, hearing the doneness of, especially, you know, Home, that last song, how little there is of it, and if they're doing a full version, that's going to take a lot of time to finish. I'm going to let you down now because you're looking grumpy. Again, I said this last year several times, but I'm going to reiterate for the people that are thick. Just because the song is in an episode does not make it finished. Everybody assumes that, like, they get grumpy because they're like, where's the soundtrack? You know, all the songs have been in the show. They must be finished. No. Jeff makes shorter, rough versions of the songs to put in the episodes, and then he goes and finishes them later. He doesn't finish them before they go in the show. The versions that you hear in the show are unfinished. Always. They are always unfinished. Even the credits song, Armed and Ready, I can tell is not finished. It still needs touching up. There are still vocally and instrumentally things that need to be tweaked. I think it's a thing that you can only hear if you have experience with, you know, musical experience. But I can hear that it's unfinished. And every single song we have heard in Volume 4 is not finished and will not be finished. The soundtrack will be out as soon as it is ready and all of the music is done, and no sooner. Even the score isn't finished when it goes into the show. There are some pieces of score that they will, you know, work more closely with, I suppose, and, you know, ensure that they are perfect before they go into the show, because they're for important scenes, such as the Tyrion versus Cory fight. But, you know, there's still, like, everything that goes into the episodes is rough. It needs tweaking, it needs finalizing, it needs, you know, and then after they get all of the music finished, it then has to go on CDs onto iTunes and be distributed, which is no, like, small task. That takes time as well. It takes time to distribute on iTunes, even. And then getting the physical soundtrack out again takes more time still. So the songs are not done, is my point. They're not done, so don't come to me complaining that the soundtrack isn't out because the songs are done, they're in the show. No, they're not finished. Jeff will release them when they are finished and not before. So I'm expecting, around the same release time as last year for the soundtrack, because there's a lot, I can hear there's a lot of work to be done on the music, and I'm expecting also a bonus track that wasn't even in the volume. Just because we only had 6 tracks this volume, and last volume we had more because there were a lot more fights last volume, because of the tournament. So, yeah, I'm expecting one that wasn't even in the show, and we couldn't possibly know what level of doneness that's at. So, I keep saying doneness, that's not a word.
Wouldn't that technically be the acoustic version?
Well, there'd be the acoustic version, and I reckon they're doing another track as well that wasn't in the volume. So, I don't know, though. Like, I'm not on, you know, I'm not in the know when it comes to this. I'm speculating. So don't, like, quote me to say, oh, SheNoob said this. No, I'm speculating. I hope there's another track on there, because there were 6 songs featured in the volume, including the credits song and the little snippet song in the finale as well, which seems a little low. So those 6 plus hopefully a bonus track plus an acoustic version would make it 8. So yeah,
which is a good number.
Yeah, and then Chibi Season 2. There's a lot to speculate about Chibi Season 2, because is it going to be a beacon? Is it going to be Volume 4 themed? Like, we don't really know what's going to go on with that. Somebody in the RWBY panel shouted out Chibi Tyrion, which is an interesting idea that Miles laughed at. Obviously, you know, they had Chibi's in the, you know, early stages of planning. Animation won't have started yet. It'll be in pre-production at this stage, so they'll still be gathering ideas and wondering and figuring out what to do with it. Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with it. I'd like to see more of the Beacon stuff, but at the same time, some Volume 4 stuff might be really interesting, what they could do with that.
I'd almost like to see, like, a Chibi skit of, like, after Ruby's, like, left home, and it's, like, all of Team Ranger getting their new outfits and stuff.
Yeah, that would be funny.
Like,
there's a lot they could do with it.
Yeah, so...
I'd almost like to see a Chibi skit of, like, a Klein one-man show with his 7 different dwarf personalities.
Yeah.
That would be really funny. Because, you know, we've only seen 3 of them. There's 4 more in there that we haven't even gotten to experience yet. And I feel like we won't see any of Klein at all next volume, which makes me really sad. Unless they kill him.
He's alive. He's alive.
He's alive for now, as far as we know. So let's just count our blessings, shall we? Yeah, so exciting things to come for RWBY during the off-season. Once the Volume 4 soundtrack drops, I will be working tirelessly on score excerpt videos, on lyric videos, on whatever else I decide to do with it this year. And I am going to do a review of the soundtrack as well once I've listened to it a few times. Yeah, just so you're aware of that. But please keep in mind that I am starting my 2nd year of university this year in, like, 12 days. No.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, 3 weeks.
19 days I start.
Okay, so I'm closer.
Yeah. So that is going to take up a significant chunk of my time. I am going to make sure I still make time to edit, but, you know, university at the end of last year was a struggle for me, so... And being 2nd year, I have more topics, I have more work to do, and my degree is extremely important to me for my future, so I am going to put my degree first. At the same time, I'm not going to stop doing YouTube, but it's probably going to be less frequent by the time I go back to study. You know, I get breaks during the year, but they're not really breaks. It's just I stop going to classes for 2 weeks. I still have to read and do assignments, and, you know, the amount of reading that they give you in university is phenomenal. Like, you know, I think I read 22 books last year alone. And, like, that's, like, novels and plays, and, you know, and that was just the physical ones. Like, there were other, you know, other smaller ones that I didn't have physical copies of, but, yeah, just remember that is gonna take up a chunk of my time, and if I don't have time if I don't get RWBY stuff out promptly, it's because I'm focusing on that, and, yeah, my degree is very important to me, so I want to make sure that I do well. I think that's everything I wanted to say. I have absolutely no idea how long this has been recording for, but...
Yeah, I know, it's because of all the technical issues. I did want to say one more thing, is that I was looking at my notes. The only thing I wanted to say is, I think it's ironic that Weiss made fun of, like, the rapscallion stowaway son, and now she's stowing away to get away from her family.
That's true, I didn't even think about that.
Oh, the irony.
Yeah, that is ironic, actually. But good on her, like, you know, taking charge and doing things for herself, even if it means breaking the rules. I don't think she's afraid of breaking the rules, but... and
getting disowned.
But, you know, the Weiss in Volume 1 was like, oh, I hope I don't get a bad grade because of you, and now she's just like, whatever, I'm gonna illegally stow away on a ship to escape Atlas, whatever, doesn't bother me. Yeah, no, it's funny, she's come a long way as a character, but, I almost don't want this to end because it's the last one. I'm like, it's over after this.
Wow.
It's so sad. Before we go, I just want to say... Yes?
There's one more thing in my notes.
Yeah?
When the Mistral ships were arriving, did you notice that Bad Luck Charm was playing in the background? But
Yes.
It was a much more, like, hopeful, optimistic version of it.
I did notice that, yes. At first I thought it was Let's Just Live, but I was like, no, that's actually Crow's theme, yeah. Yeah, before we go, I just want to say a huge, massive thank you to everyone who's watched the podcast this volume, to everyone who's submitted questions, to everyone who has followed me on RWBY Amino, to everybody who's left comments, and, you know, it really means a lot to us, because without you guys watching the podcast, we wouldn't be doing it. I'm gonna try my damnedest to live stream next volume, the podcast. With guests, it makes it a little tricky, so, like, we may not live stream all of them, but I do want that to be a reality for next volume. Yeah, we'll see. It's just a matter of figuring out the logistics of how to live stream this. Yeah, but, you know, you have all been wonderful this volume, and we thank you so much for watching the podcast and making it what it is. And we'll miss doing this, and we'll see you after Chibi premieres at some point. I don't know when. It's going to be a busy year for both of us. Cory's going to be moving later this year. I'm doing university. You know, it's going to be a busy year. So, bear with us. You will see us again. Don't know when. Not making any promises, but you will see us. And thank you for watching the finale podcast. Thank you for watching all volume. And we'll see you soon, I hope. I'm sure we'll see you in other videos, but as for the podcast, yeah, we'll see you whenever we see you. Bye!
Bye!